This is TWiT.
Fortnite clearly was itching for a fight and decided to take this time to modify the in-app purchases on its app, both on iOS and Android, in order to get pulled down on both. At which point, they released a video that, oddly, they had just ready to hand called 1980 Fortnite that may remind you a little bit of a video that we saw in 1984. People sitting, watching a giant screen, a young woman with, well, it's not a sledgehammer, actually. It's a unicorn hobby horse. And she's running away from the police. She arrives and tosses it through the screen, which smashes. And then Epic Games has defied the App Store monopoly. In retaliation, Apple is blocking Fortnite from 1 billion devices. Join the fight to stop 2020 from being 1984. Hashtag free Fortnite. They were ready. They also went to court, sought an injunction. They did the same thing to Google. They didn't have a video ready for Google. I don't know. Maybe they thought Google wouldn't pay any attention. You may remember that Tim Sweeney of Epic didn't put Fortnite on the Google Play Store at first, saying you should sideload it because we don't want to pay the 30%. Eventually, they gave in. Mike, is there legal merit in what Epic is doing? Will they prevail in court, or can they?
It's a big hill to climb. That doesn't mean that they won't win. They might. But if I were taking odds on whether or not Epic would prevail, I would say they are unlikely to prevail. Though I was impressed. Not only did they have that 1984 video, they actually referenced 1984 in the complaint, so that their marketing and legal team. It's
a 60-page complaint. Up. I don't think they wrote that overnight. No. They had, but it's impressive. Not only did they have it ready, but that they had worked out with the marketing this whole framing. Well, wait a minute. That's not though. I think that's part of it. In a way that I think if I'm the judge, that's going to taint this a little bit because it's so clear that they kind of set this whole thing up, that they prepared for months for this moment. And part of the thing that's interesting about it, I guess, is that, if you look at it from Apple's perspective, they were going to be in trouble no matter which decision they made, right? If they sort of let Fortnite get away with this, then everybody else would be complaining that, they're giving sort of special treatment to Fortnite. And then, of course, when they say, well, Fortnite is violating the rules, so therefore we're gonna pull them from the store, then they have all these other issues. So no matter which way it was going to go, like Apple didn't have any good choices. And I guess Google was picking sides and decided they were realizing that if Apple loses, they're going to be in trouble too. Yeah. Apple, of course, is already under the gun in the EU over App Store monopoly. In the United States, Tim Cook was brought up in front of Congress along with 3 other executives, as you know, a couple of weeks ago. And that was one of the issues that Congress was interested in. The Antitrust Subcommittee will have a report, probably not till the end of the year or early next year, about this. But there's some concern. The FTC is looking into it, that maybe Apple is monopolistic. And then on the other hand, and I'll give this argument so you guys don't have to, a lot of people I know say, hey, Apple, it's as if Apple built a great mall. And Forever 21 moved in and said, well, but we don't want to pay you any rent. We just want to be in your mall. They're freeloading, Epic's freeloading on what Apple has built with its platform and its store. Do you agree, Amy? Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things happening here. One, we don't have a clear definition for what the future of distribution would look like. So I think it's interesting that Epic is trying to initiate an antitrust battle because the hearing that happened a week ago or 2 weeks ago reflects lawmakers sort of scrambling to, first of all, group together companies that really are doing disparate things. And second of all, using policy that was written in 1890. So the Sherman Act was written.
Didn't really know about app stores.
Right. But this is important because there's very little substantive analogy to make about the means for distribution in a digital setting and the railroad system. So that being said, this could be an interesting and possibly the only way to really crack through. And that's because this is a limited circumstance. So Apple charging 30%, if you look at other industries, that percentage of rev share is higher than what you would see elsewhere.
It's not, though, higher than on the consoles. Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo charge the same 30% fee and have the same control. This all dates back to the days when Atari and Nintendo were swamped by crappy games, and they learned very early on, we got to keep tight control over what's on our console. Fortnite doesn't seem to mind that 30%.
No, it's the data on the other end. So the key difference here is that when you've got a console game with heavy DRM protections, you're talking about limited use case. Now with a game being on a different type of device, one that hinges on the Play Store and Apple Store, there's a wealth of other data there. And so I think if they were, it really depends. If they try to define antitrust very narrowly, I think they have a shot. I think it could be more compelling for them to talk about the future of all of this data that's being generated. And the fact that in and of itself is also, that has value. And they can't easily access those data in addition to having to pay the fees. And you can't, there is no other way to play Fortnite. You either have to jailbreak and I guess somehow.
That's true. On Google, you could sideload, but there's nothing you can do on Apple.
Right. So I think Google I don't think I have as strong of a case against Google, but the reality is that Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple are all facing some flavor of antitrust, and the blanket application we already know doesn't apply. So what's interesting here is Epic could force the hand of Apple and start to change parts of the industry.
So Apple's response to this, by the way, let me paraphrase it, is this is disingenuous of Epic. They've had apps on our App Store for 10 years. They've benefited from their presence on the App Store for 10 years. Now Apple says Epic's business interests lead it to push for a special arrangement that would be unfair to other developers. Whose reputation is more at risk here, Epic's or Apple's, Iain?
Honestly, I think this is a really interesting case because, let's face it, you don't get Fortnite because it's on the Apple Store. You get Fortnite because it's a really good game. And Apple has said they run a closed ecosystem. If you want apps on our phones or on our hardware, you have to go through us. And that seems blatantly anti-competitive. I admit I'm a foreigner over here, but even so.
What does that have anything to do with anything?
Well, not knowing quite how
what are antitrust laws?
Your antitrust
they're
rules
different.
Work.
I've been told, Mike's probably more an expert on this than I am, but they're different in the EU than they are here in the United States.
Very much so, yeah. You would not get away with this in the EU. But, US regulators are very much the sort of, do whatever you like and we'll issue a minor fine. Honestly, I'm with Epic on this one. And yes, Apple sleptwalked into this. They walked right into an ambush. Epic had the trailer ready to go. They had the lawsuits ready to go. This was done around about the time that Apple was facing antitrust talks in Congress. This was a hit job, pure and
simple.
Although
if I'm a Fortnite player, I might be pissed off on the one hand because we know Tim Sweeney personally made $7 billion last year from Fortnite. Epic made even more. So it's not like they're hurting. Giving Apple their 30% hasn't hurt them.
No, but it's the principle of the thing, surely. Yes, okay, Apple says if you want to run software on our phones, you have to give us 30%. That seems to me to be anti-competitive.